What you're about to hear behind the strikes in Iran, the chaos in the streets of Israel, and the FBI's sudden warning inside the United States, what I can tell you guys is that this wasn't random. This was not a reaction. This was calculated. This was surgical, okay? This was a trap. And Donald J. Trump, now back in office, may have just pulled off the most brilliant, dangerous, and far-reaching moves of his second presidency. So while most Americans were watching rockets streak over through the skies over Tel Aviv, while the media screamed about escalation, while Iran vowed revenge, and the world held its breath, President Trump was silent. Did you notice that? Trump was strategic. He was watching, because this wasn't about Israel. This wasn't just about Iran's nuclear sites. This was about forcing the real network, Iran's global proxies, their underground infrastructure, and yes, their sleeper cells here in America, into the light. Now, what most people don't realize is that this assault, this surgical strike inside of Iran, it wasn't improvised. It was actually planned over a year in advance. Israeli intelligence operatives, they backed what experts call silent U.S. coordination. They infiltrated Iran with civilian vehicles, hiding mobile launch systems. They ended up smuggling in remote weapons, built a secret drone base near Tehran, and they took out 20 of Iran's top generals in a coordinated night. Guys, nuclear facilities, they're gone. Command structure, decapitated. And Iran's nuclear timeline, oh, they got set back years. One expert called it a paradigm shift in modern warfare. Another one called it the day Israel showed the world that it had already been behind enemy lines. Guys, the timing, the intelligence, the precision, this is what's raising eyebrows right now. Because many now believe that this wasn't just an Israeli operation. This was Trump's trap. Now, within 24 hours of the strike, the FBI quietly issued domestic alerts, sleeper cells, Iranian-linked operatives embedded inside of U.S. cities. A watch list, first released under President Trump's prior administration back in 2023, is now back on the table with increased urgency. And on that list, New York City, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., Houston, Chicago, Miami, Orlando, Seattle, and over 30 more locations flagged by federal agencies as potential hotspots. You think that this is paranoia? Think again, guys. Also, let me know, did you hear your city on that list? Even former FBI agents and special ops experts are now going on record saying, look, if Iran chooses to escalate, it won't just be missiles. It will be terror cells already here. Think about this, guys. While the Biden era let the borders fly open, while Iranian agents allegedly slipped through the they embedded themselves across the United States, President Trump may have been playing the long game all along. He let Israel strike. He let Iran rage, and now they're moving. Now, we're watching because some people believe that this may have actually fleshed them out. Others warn that it may provoke them into action. But either way, guys, the trap has already sprung. Now, of course, we need to unpack how Trump coordinated with Israeli intelligence behind the scenes, why Iran's nuclear timeline was just shattered, and how close they actually came to going nuclear. The real reason the FBI is reviving the 2023 sleeper cell list, and what's changed in just 72 hours at this point. Plus, which U.S. cities are now being quietly put on high alert? And finally, what does this all mean for President Trump's second term, the Middle East, and the national security that we're being covered by here at home? Well, guys, if you appreciate the daily news updates, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate you, because what started in Tehran might not end there. Trump just set the stage, the trap has closed, and now the world is waiting to see who moves next. Now, some people, they find out about Chapter after an accident. Others are lucky enough to hear about it just in time. Marianne Comney, she said, Chapter is fantastic. My guy Vance is a hero in my eyes. Ed, age 84, he said, saved $684 per year. Huge savings on my fixed income. Guys, Chapter doesn't advertise everywhere, but when people find it, they stay. So give our friends over at Chapter a call right now. Phone number is 909-563-8279, or better yet, hit them up on their website at askchapter.org/Ron. Guys, this secret is worth sharing, I promise. So I want to go ahead and start with how this entire trap by President Trump was set. So while the mainstream media was busy obsessing over sound bites, President Donald J. Trump, he was playing a deeper game, one that most Americans didn't even notice. He didn't launch missiles. He didn't hold press conferences. Instead, he gave Israel exactly what they needed: room to move. Insiders say President Trump gave the green light months ago, allowing Israeli intelligence and defense teams to conduct long-range operations without interference from DC bureaucracy. In fact, under President Trump's leadership, the U.S. reportedly provided silent intel support, satellite mapping, encrypted comms, digital surveillance, all while staying officially uninvolved. See that? So here's where it gets rather strategic. President Trump never declared it. He let Israel take the spotlight. And while the real message to Iran, to their proxies, and to the world was unmistakable, we're not reacting. We're already 2 steps ahead. And just wait until you hear what Israel actually pulled off, because this next part is exactly what's making military insiders call it the most daring covert strike of the decade, guys. Now listen to this. This wasn't a flyover. This wasn't a drone drop. This was a year-long, multi-phase infiltration operation. Okay, so Israel's Mossad infiltrated Iran using civilian vehicles, blending into traffic with hidden missile launchers and remote drones stashed in the back seats. But it gets even crazier. They built an actual drone base near Tehran on Iranian soil. So let me say this again, guys. Mossad built a drone base inside Iran under their noses. And when it was time, they launched. Nuclear facilities gone, air defenses disabled, and perhaps most shockingly of all, up to 20 top Iranian generals wiped out in coordinated targeted assassination. That was not just a strike, that was a decapitation, and military analysts are calling it a paradigm shift in modern warfare. The old rules, out the window, guys. Israel just reminded the region that they don't wait to be attacked. They eliminate the threat before it gets close. And here's the kicker. They could not have done this without Trump giving the quiet nod. This was chess, not checkers. And what came next, guys? Well, that's where things really got explosive, literally. All right, so I'm gonna show you guys why President Trump let this strike happen and how it may have actually been designed to force Iran into retaliation, not just overseas, but right here in the US. Of course, we're also going to get into the shocking resurgence of sleeper cell alerts in dozens of American cities and why the FBI is now moving fast. Stick with me, guys, because you don't want to miss what's coming up next. So a lot of people are asking me, why now, Ron? Why did President Trump sit silent while Israel launched what may go down as arguably one of the most devastating precision strikes in modern history? Well, here is the real reason, and you won't hear this on CNN. Intelligence confirmed Iran was weeks, maybe even days away from 84% uranium enrichment. That is dangerously close to weapons grade. That's not just peaceful energy production. That is nuclear warhead territory. Now, rewind the clock just a little bit. Trump, as you may remember, he had given Iran a 60-day window to return to the negotiating table. He made it very clear, come to the table peacefully or the choice will be made for you. That deadline passed. Iran didn't budge, so the operation was greenlit. But here's where it gets even more strategic. By allowing Israel to carry out the strike just, right after the window closed, President Trump didn't just authorize retaliation. He allowed Iran to show its cards. He literally created a situation where Iran would have to respond, and then in doing so, they would reveal their networks, their proxies, and possibly even their sleeper agents inside the US. Their move, we see them. They attack, we strike harder. They wait, they lose momentum. This wasn't just like a military response. It was psychological warfare on top of that. And as you're about to see, that trap that President Trump set overseas, it may have just triggered the most serious domestic threat in years. So right after Israel's strike, Iran didn't just threaten revenge. They launched over 200 ballistic missiles toward Israel in what's now being called the 5th wave of retaliation. But the bigger concern, the one that is not getting nearly enough attention is this one here. Iran may be preparing to activate sleeper cells already inside the United States. You heard that right, guys. We're talking about terrorist proxies, Hezbollah, IRGC linked operatives, and even Hamas sympathizers embedded in US cities waiting for the call to act. And here's a critical link. According to multiple defense insiders, Iran's entire foreign strategy revolves around proxy warfare. They rarely fight direct battles. battles. They fight through others, through hidden hands. Think about what happened on October 7th with Hamas and Israel, right? I want you to ask yourself, what would that look like in Chicago or New York or Washington, D.C.? Former Navy SEALs and intelligence experts, they're going public. They're saying this. This is how Iran speaks, through action, through surprise, through shock. And now that brings us to what the FBI just did. Because this next move, guys, it now confirms that President Trump's trap is working, but it also means that the danger is real. So of course, I'm going to walk you guys through the FBI's sudden alert, the resurfacing of a city by city sleeper cell list, and how Trump's administration is now stepping in to protect American soil before it's too late. So within just 24 hours of Iran's missile retaliation, the FBI issued a quiet but urgent domestic security bulletin. So let me be clear, guys. This wasn't just routine monitoring. This was code red escalation. Law enforcement agencies across the country were instructed to review known Iranian-linked networks, double-check known affiliates, and increase monitoring in specific U.S. cities already flagged for foreign infiltration. Translation? They're not just worried about overseas retaliation. They're bracing for it right here on American soil. And the timing is impossible to ignore. Right after Iran suffers a crippling military and leadership blow, the FBI starts watching for sleeper cell activation. It's not a coincidence. That is cause and effect, guys. Now, what's even more telling is that multiple defense analysts and former special agents are now confirming publicly what many of us have feared privately. Iran has the proxies. They have the networks. And yes, they may already be here. This isn't just an external war. It's a homeland chessboard now, and the pieces are starting to move. So now, here's the part that they really don't want you to remember. Back in November of 2023, under President Trump's leadership before the election, the FBI compiled a classified list of U.S. cities where Iranian sleeper cells were believed to be present or actively monitored. Now, that list has now resurfaced, and it's growing in urgency. So here are just a few of the cities that are either on heightened alert or are under renewed scrutiny. New York City, no surprise. Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., no surprise. Chicago, Houston, Orlando, Dallas, San Francisco, and Seattle. That's only a portion of the list. The Trump administration has now ordered essentially elevated threat levels in several metro areas and zones, and they've mobilized National Guard surveillance units in high-risk regions. What we are seeing now, multiple federal agents are confirming that open border policies from the Biden era likely contributed to how these operatives slipped through in the first place. But now, under Trump, that window is slamming shut fast. This is no longer theory. This is now containment, prevention, and possibly interdiction. But here's the biggest twist, guys. Some insiders believe that this was the plan all along, to go ahead and flush out the hidden threats, force Iran to act, and expose everything that they've been hiding on U.S. soil for years. Now, this is where I want to really kind of break down the global fallout, the Arab world's quiet approval, and how President Trump is now using this movement, this moment, to reshape the Middle East for good. Guys, you're not going to believe how far this ripple effect goes. So let's be crystal clear here. This was not just about blowing up some Iranian sites. This was about reshaping the entire balance of power, and President Trump just tilted the board. So Iran's nuclear ambitions, they just got crushed. Analysts are now saying that their nuclear timeline has been reset by years, with core facilities reduced to rubble, critical infrastructure including power systems and enrichment hardware obliterated, leadership chain shattered, with up to 20 top Iranian generals killed in coordinated assassinations. Iran's military decision-making is in chaos right now. Replacing that leadership, it's not going to be easy, and Iran knows it. Terror proxies shaken. Groups like Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, long emboldened by Tehran's backing, they're now in retreat mode. They've seen what happens when they move. President Trump doesn't send statements. He lets allies strike first and strike hard. That's not just retaliation. That's deterrence with teeth. And that leads to something that's even more important, something even bigger than Iran. Because President Trump just reestablished U.S. dominance in a region that had slipped into chaos under the last administration. Guys, he's sending a message not just to Iran, but to China, to Russia, North Korea, and every regime that underestimated his resolve. You play games, we'll end them quietly and permanently. Here's something even more fascinating. Some of Iran's neighbors, they're actually applauding silently. But let's get to that, right? So now, you're not going to hear this from the press, not from the conferences or from the UN briefings, but behind the scenes. Arab nations are relieved. Some are even celebrating, because while they couldn't publicly endorse Israel's strike and certainly not join an Israel-American operation, they wanted this to happen. Gulf nations like Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and the UAE, they have long viewed Iran as the single greatest threat to regional stability. Iran's proxies have threatened their oil routes, their security, and their influence for years. But now, Israel did their dirty work. Trump just gave them cover. And Iran, they got gut punched. So, Arab intelligence services, they're reportedly, quietly, syncing with Israel and U.S. operatives. Some experts are even saying that this could reinvigorate the Abraham Accords under President's second term, possibly even bring new countries into the fold. But here's the truth. When Trump acts through strength, the regional lines, we've seen it, and this is a pattern that we've observed, right? Nobody trusts Iran. Nobody wants a nuclear Middle East. And now they know Trump won't let that happen. So of course, I want to go ahead and wrap this up by revealing President Trump's bigger message to Iran and to the world, and why this moment may define the future of global conflict and diplomacy. Guys, the gloves are off. The rules have changed, and we're about to see who's left standing. So I don't want to sugarcoat this at all. President Trump didn't just respond to a threat. He re-established what this actually looks like. His message wasn't whispered. It wasn't passed through spokespeople. It was emboldened in his strike itself. You move on us, we remove your leadership. You build weapons, we destroy your capabilities. You threaten our allies, we erase your options. That's not diplomacy. That is dominance without apology. And here's what makes it even more masterful, guys. Trump has managed to cripple Iran's nuclear program, expose sleeper cell threats inside the US, and realign Middle Eastern alliances without putting a single American boot on the ground. No endless war, no regime change, just decisive, preemptive, and yes, unforgettable action. The trap was never about baiting Iran into full-blown war. The trap was about forcing them into exposure, blunting their national reach or regional reach, and reclaiming leverage at the negotiating table, or possibly forcing a regime isolation and refuse. So in other words, President Trump didn't just play a clever role. He played the winning hand. And now, I think all eyes are on what Iran and the sleeper cells inside of America do next. So here's where we stand. Israel, or rather Iran's nuclear timeline, it just got crushed. Their top generals, they're gone. Their proxies are shaken. Their sleeper cells in the US now exposed and are being hunted. But the question is, will Iran push back harder and risk annihilation? Will sleeper cells strike inside the US in our cities? Or will Trump's intelligence net essentially catch them first? So will this be the beginning of a full-blown US-Iran confrontation, or will it be the end of Iran's nuclear dream? I can tell you one thing, guys, the world is watching and waiting. The media is spinning, but one thing is now crystal clear. President Trump, he didn't just respond, he baited the trap, and now it's snapping shut. Now guys, if you found this breakdown eye-opening, I want you to do me a favor and hit that like button, share this video, drop a comment down below. Should the US take even stronger action against Iran? Do you believe that the sleeper cells are already here and active? Subscribe if you want daily, no-spin updates on what's really happening behind the scenes, because while they distract you, I'm going to keep you ahead of the game. We'll see you next time.